Love is a lovely sensation. When you begin dating someone, you often consider if you could spend your whole life with them. If the response is no, it's preferable not to continue the connection since you never know what's going through the other person's mind. Valerie Reyes met a young guy and subsequently engaged into a relationship that ended her life. The most unique feature of the story is that the youngster prophesied her own death. Valerie Reyes was born on April 1st, 1994, in New Rochelle, New York, to Sal and Norma. She has one elder brother and two younger siblings. Valerie, being the only daughter, had a strong relationship with her mother, who encouraged her interest for all things artistic. Her artistic side shined through in all she did. Valerie was a sweet, sensitive, and altruistic young lady who worked really hard to attain her goals in life. She was a homebody from childhood, enjoyed reading extensively, and preferred to spend her leisure time with close friends and family rather than at parties. Welcome to Unseen True Crime Stories HQ. I thank you, my viewers, most especially my subscribers, for your support as we keep improving and bringing daily told and untold true crime stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Valerie attended New Rochelle College after graduating from high school in 2012. Friends characterized her as a cheerful, loving, and really nice person. The Reyes family was very close-knit, with Sunday being their designated family day. Valerie greatly anticipated weekends. They would all get together and enjoy playing board games, taking walks in the park, or visiting a family-friendly cafe. Valerie continued to have fun with her younger brothers, despite the fact that she had long past childhood. Around them, she changed into a cheerful, carefree, and mischievous girl. She spent the remainder of her time working at a bookshop in an Eastchester shopping mall. She loved her work because she got to read and suggest books to people. She could talk about books of all kinds and types. Valerie was always reading, even while she was in a cafe. She enjoyed singing in her apartment, going on long walks, and trekking, but her ultimate passion was art and creative self-expression. Valerie sketched images of her friends and classmates and wanted to be a tattoo artist like her elder brother, embellishing customers' bodies with her own distinct designs. Her aim was to start her own tattoo studio, and she worked relentlessly to achieve that faraway objective. Valerie had previously allowed her brother to try tattooing on her, but she eventually fell in love with the art form herself. She had the spirit of an artist. Valerie was generally a pleasant person, despite occasional periods of worry and despair. Creativity and self-expression helped her overcome these emotions. Valerie met a guy called Javier via a website in January 2018. The young couple dated for only 3 months before splitting up in April 2018. Valerie told her friends that Javier was more engaged in the romance than she was. The girl saw no future in this short-term relationship. Tension built between them, and the student decided not to punish herself or the man by recommending they part ways. The smitten Javier refused to accept reality and continued to call and write to her, inventing different excuses. He messaged Valerie in September 2018, a few months after their separation, indicating he wanted to refund her for money purportedly swiped from her card. Apparently, Javier had unintentionally used her debit card details for an online transaction and now wanted to repay the money he had spent. It's unclear if Valerie handed him this card herself or whether the info remained on the computer from their previous relationship. The girl was already weary of Javier, always looking for excuses to connect, so she decided to ask her friend to handle the money problem to avoid giving her ex-boyfriend any more opportunity. Following this episode, the man seemed to realize that everything between them was finished and calmed down for a bit. He didn't say anything for many months. Valerie had reached the age of 24 by then. She lived alone in a leased basement apartment in New Rochelle. Given her prior psychological states, living alone did not increase her self-esteem. Panic attacks and anxiety returned more regularly. The girl had been living alone for a long time, but in recent weeks, she had begun to worry and feel nervous due to the lack of loved ones close. Valerie spent the whole day with her family the previous day, on Sunday. Everything was going well, and there appeared to be no cause for alarm from the outside. However, on Monday, January 28, 2019, Valerie contacted her mother in a panic, reporting that she believed she was about to die and that her life would be snatched. It's tough to understand how Norma felt when she heard those words from her daughter. Valerie seemed terrified, as if there were some actual omens behind what she was saying. Her rapid shift in attitude and thinking was not an accident. Norma was aware that her daughter had broken up with yet another boyfriend only 5 days before and was plainly distraught about everything in her life. The mom tried to reassure her daughter, offering her to come to the family home whenever she felt lonely. However, Valerie abruptly ended the discussion without clearly explaining anything. Norma thought that the best thing to do at this time was to just let her daughter relax. In any event, they agreed to meet the following day and go shopping together. So she wished Valerie well, muttered a few supportive things, and then pushed the discussion out of her mind as she went about her regular routine. Later that evening, Valerie texted her mother, wishing her a happy night and telling her that she was feeling better. In addition to Norma, she was messaging her closest buddy, Jeffrey Anderson. They had been friends for over 10 years, and Valerie had informed him about her concerns. After talking things out, the girl's energy and demeanor improved. And because she had to get up for work in the morning, she went to bed. On Tuesday, January 29th, Norma arranged to meet with her daughter in the afternoon, but she did not return calls or texts. The lady did not keep calling, expecting that once Valerie regained consciousness, she would call her mother and explain everything. The mom was unconcerned, believing that her daughter had fallen asleep due to her nervousness the day before and had just switched off her phone to avoid being awakened. Norma had no idea that her daughter had not turned up for work that day. She did not contact me on Tuesday or Wednesday. The girl didn't reply to friends or family and skipped another shift at the bookshop. Skipping workdays without explanation was not in Valerie's nature. Therefore, the department administration made many attempts to contact the girl. Norma recalled her daughter's unusual fear over her own life on Monday night. The mother started to think that something was amiss. All calls were now directed straight to voicemail, and when the lady discovered that her daughter had not showed up to the bookshop in 2 days, she got quite concerned. After Valerie's parents reported her abduction to the New Rochelle Police Department, images of the youngster and details of her distinctive traits were posted across the community. Such quick efforts were the consequence of numerous recent assaults on women in the area where Valerie resided, which ended disastrously. The police initially went to Valerie's apartment, where they discovered no evidence of a fight or break-in. However, there were visible random little particles of blood on the pillows, toilet, and bathroom floor. This did not raise any concerns, since the tiny splatters may have remained after cutting a little frame when cleaning teeth, where the girl may have begun bleeding. Valerie's phone, iPad, wallet, some of her clothing, and a small pillow were also gone from the flat, which tipped off the cops. The detective's initial thought was that the girl had gone away. The cops assumed she had been engaged in anything illicit or was hiding from someone. However, the parents emphatically disagreed with this premise. They were certain that Valerie would have informed them of her departure. In any event, she would never have simply departed, leaving them concerned about her. Norma informed the police about her daughter's worrisome feelings before to her abduction. The youngster feared that someone wanted her dead. Now, the lady was berating herself for not adequately probing Valerie about the source of such ideas in her mind. She suspected it may be connected to her daughter's personal life and the recent split. As a result, Valerie's ex-boyfriend, with whom she had broken up a few days before, was the first to be suspected. However, the man was quickly removed off the list since he actively engaged in the hunt for his girlfriend and provided an alibi. Over the following 3 days, the police, together with the missing girl's family and friends, reached out to social media users for assistance, and the reaction was quick. Valerie's acquaintance reported seeing her at the New Rochelle train station a few days earlier. The student wore a dark green coat, black pants, and black shoes. Another letter said Valerie was seen in Manhattan. Others said they had seen a similar-looking female at one of the city's clubs. The police investigated each lead and discovered that none of the claims were accurate. To determine where the little girl may have gone, the police proceeded to monitor her bank account activities. They soon found that more than $10,000 had been taken from Valerie's debit card at multiple ATMs in New Rochelle. The police sought security camera video from bank ATMs, which would take time to verify. One of the recordings indicated the girl's movement pattern that morning, which matched Valerie's account. She was spotted on security video near the bank early on January 30th. The film was given to her mother, Norma, who verified that the stranger resembled her daughter in some manner, sparking hope in the mother's heart. The girl's photos were released to the public, along with a plea that anybody with information on her whereabouts report it. Valerie was also reported as having lately experienced anxiety and sadness. Despite several public pleas, no fresh information on the case was obtained. Valerie Reyes was located on February 5, 2019, after the authorities had no leads in her case for a week. A group of employees in Greenwich, Connecticut, approximately 8 a.m. They were doing ordinary road maintenance in a forested region around 10 miles from Valerie's house. One of them saw a red-orange luggage a few meters from the main road. This suitcase seemed odd. It was laying in a woodland location and did not seem like an old, worn-out object that had been thrown as unneeded. Furthermore, it was obviously not empty. One of the workers' curiosity overcame rationality. He approached the suitcase, intending to open it and examine inside. When the guy unzipped it, he was instantly turned inside out by the awful odor that leaked out. The other workers quickly called the police station. When the investigation team came, they unzipped the luggage and discovered the death of a young lady. She was clothed in a shirt and pants. The top was undone, and the victim's shoes were gone. The victim's knees and ankles were shackled, her wrists were taped together, and her lips and chin were covered in many layers of duct tape. The victim had been badly assaulted before being placed in the suitcase, as shown by many injuries to his face and head. The nose and cheekbones were shattered, while the skull was fractured. One half of his face had a thick bruise. The corpse buried in the luggage had already started to disintegrate, indicating that the girl had been deceased for at least a few days. The corpse was sent to a forensic laboratory, and the following day it was determined that the cause of death was strangling. Valerie's father and elder brother were asked to the morgue to help confirm the deceased's identification. The male side of the family resolved to protect Norma from the horrifying scene they were about to see. The guys were certain it was Valerie laying before them, despite the fact that the girl was difficult to distinguish owing to her injuries. However, this was hardly the complete nightmare that the Reyes family had to face. When detectives unzipped the luggage, they learned that one of the road workers had photographed Valerie's corpse after she had been battered and murdered. He started exhibiting the picture to all of his contacts, telling the awful discovery he and his team had made in the forested area along the main road. This guy evidently did not anticipate that the photo would eventually reach others who knew the victim. The worst-case scenario occurred when Valerie Reyes' picture almost made it to the public when this worker phoned the editing office of a news magazine and offered to publish the crime scene photograph. When the Department of Public Works, where this guy worked, learned of the issue, they placed him on administrative leave while they investigated. In the end, they were forced to issue a public apology for their employees' foolish and insensitive actions, which was the last thing Valerie's family needed. After Valerie was reported missing, detectives investigated her financial activities. It was revealed that the initial cash withdrawal happened on January 29th, about 5 a.m., just a few hours after Valerie's discussion with her mother. Detectives discovered security video from one of the ATMs showing a guy withdrawing money while clad in black jeans and a black hooded sweatshirt that totally covered his face. His car was also recorded by the ATM's CCTV camera. Using the license plate number, they were able to locate the car's owner. It came out that the Honda car had only been hired for 2 days on January 28th and 29th by Valerie's ex-boyfriend, Javier, with whom she had dated for 3 months and split up last year. In the days after the girl's abduction, he made many additional cash withdrawals using Valerie's bank card. So who is Javier? Javier Enrique de Silva Rojas was born on January 3, 1995. He was originally from Venezuela and has dual citizenship with Portugal. In 2017, he went to the United States using a unique certificate that permitted citizens of a restricted number of countries, to remain for 90 days without an official visa. At the time, Venezuela was experiencing severe economic and financial catastrophe. The crisis caused hyperinflation and a lack of essential products in the nation, such as food and medication, as well as increased unemployment. Nearly 8 million Venezuelan refugees fled to neighboring nations, where the government offered them temporary asylum. Javier was one of the exiles who resolved to drastically alter his life. When his 90-day visa-free stay in the United States ended, he refused to return to his native country, so he stayed illegally. Javier resided in Flushing, New York, and he changed jobs regularly. He first worked for a cleaning firm, then as a barista, and last as a chef and server at a fast food restaurant. Throughout his tenure in the United States, Javier maintained a low profile and avoided drawing attention to himself. Friends described him as a gentle, considerate man who was always willing to assist. In January 2018, Javier suddenly fell in love with Valerie Reyes, a girl from a dating website. He tried everything to get her to notice him. When it occurred, Javier was ready to share his sentiments with the whole world. He wrote a lot about Valerie on social media, and from the first encounter, he was determined never to split with his beloved again. But Valerie wasn't ready for a committed relationship. When Javier recommended that the girl move in with him to live as a family, he merely pushed her away. Valerie realized that her lover expected much more from their relationship, but she was in no rush to commit to a guy. She had big ambitions for the future, and marriage did not yet fit in. Valerie rapidly became weary of Javier's persistent presence and decided to quit their relationship. However, the man was not willing to give up his sweetheart so easy, and he continued to phone many times every day and send hundreds of text messages. Valerie even had to restrict him access to all messengers and social networks. Norma, Valerie's mother, was aware of her daughter's connection with Javier. The lady received the idea that the man wanted to control everything and, if necessary, could readily resort to manipulation. And that's what occurred once. He exploited his mother's death from cancer to make Valerie feel sorry for him and consent to a meeting. The mother's condition was not verified. It's probable that he was willing to do everything to win the girl back, even such questionable maneuvers. Javier did not accept no as an answer. Their real relationship lasted less time than his pursuit of Valerie, which included a variety of meeting ways. The person made his last effort in September 2018 when he attempted to contact Valerie about utilizing her debit card information. The girl informed him bluntly that she didn't want anything to do with him and sent a friend to meet him. After this episode, Javier disappeared from Valerie's life. But was this the quiet before the storm, or did he really grasp the futility of his efforts to get closer? The investigators in charge of Valerie's investigation would soon discover this. Javier was detained on February 11th, 2019 at his leased flat in Flushing, New York. During the interview, he explained many reasons why he used Valerie's debit card to withdraw cash. At first, he claimed to have recovered her wallet on a Manhattan street, which included cards and a piece of paper with the debit card's PIN information. Javier stated that he hadn't seen Valerie in nearly a year and was not even in the neighborhood where she resided. When the authorities presented the man with proof that he had leased a vehicle and that its location was easily determined, Javier altered his tale. Now he claims he was near his ex-girlfriend's home, but did not see her. He was compelled to confess when the investigator showed him images of Valerie's corpse in the luggage. He still had great sentiments for Valerie, but his tale was far from accurate. Javier said that he communicated with Valerie on the evening of January 28th. The young guy went to her place and performed the last deed of passion, despite the fact that they hadn't seen one another in months. The conference was really stormy. They were having so much fun together that they didn't notice when they slid off the bed. Valerie tumbled to the floor and banged her head so hard that she stopped responding at all. Javier first attempted to awaken the child, but she did not recover consciousness, and he became concerned. Then he taped her lips tight so Valerie wouldn't start screaming at the worst possible time. He tied her wrists and ankles and put her in a bag. After that, he threw it into a forested area. The authorities collected Javier's DNA and matched it to a DNA sample found on the luggage handle, as well as a material discovered beneath the girl's fingernails. However, the ex-boyfriend's account did not fit the evidence that police had uncovered by this point. First, all of Valerie's acquaintances and friends agreed that Valerie did not want anything to do with Javier and would never have deliberately made love to him. Second, the forensic analysis revealed that the child died from asphyxia inside the luggage owing to numerous layers of tape wrapped over her face. If Javier's statement was genuine and the man was really terrified, it's unclear why it was necessary to tie up the dead corpse, as he said, before cold-bloodedly taking the bank cards and withdrawing all of the accrued monies. The young guy rationalized his actions by claiming that he purposefully made himself apparent on ATM camera footage so that the police could get him sooner. After what had transpired, he couldn't forgive himself and was ready for payback. A fair issue arose. Why not just go to the police and confess? Given Valerie's emotional condition and her recent talk with her mother, it seems improbable that she intended to make love with Javier when he unexpectedly came in her apartment that night. Why did she have many facial injuries that could not be caused by a fall? All of these data fully undermined Javier's narrative, but the police were unable to identify what drove him to intentionally kill the girl whose devotion he had coveted for so long. Finally, the detectives came up with a probable explanation for Javier's behavior. If you like this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel. It is very essential. On January 24th, 2019, almost a week before Valerie vanished, the man texted his new lover. He claimed to her that he had discovered his ex in his own bed with a neighbor, but this was false since Valerie would never have gone to Javier's home alone. Most likely, the man learned that Valerie had a new boyfriend. He pursued Valerie, believing her his personal property, and the prospect of a competition on the horizon enraged the young guy. According to the facts, here's what occurred that night. On the evening of January 28, 2019, Javier leased a Honda automobile in Flushing, New York, and drove to his ex's place in New Rochelle. He came early in the morning, parked near Valerie's home, and set his phone to airplane mode. The police pinged his phone, and mobile towers revealed that Javier was within 300 feet of Valerie's house that morning, before the phone signal vanished. It is unclear if Valerie let him inside the flat or whether he pushed his way in, but an altercation ensued shortly thereafter. Swabs from Valerie's breast and genitals revealed Javier's DNA. This DNA, together with the sample obtained from beneath the victim's fingernails, suggested intimate contact. Sexual intercourse did occur between them, but not with mutual agreement, as Javier stated. Valerie most certainly protested as much as she could, scratching the assailant in the process. The intense dispute and resistance resulted in the girl suffering a head injury, several bruises on her face, and a broken nose. When she passed out from agony, Javier wrapped her lips and chin in many layers of tape, bound her legs and wrists, and packed her inside a red-orange suitcase. They purchased this bag for a combined vacation when they first began dating. Valerie was still alive when her spurned lover decided to get rid of her. She suffocated due to the several layers of tape covering her lips and chin. Her nose was broken as a consequence of the assault, leaving her with no way to breathe. After loading the bag into the trunk of the hired automobile, Javier went to the girl's apartment and cleaned up as best he could. That explains why the cops discovered so little evidence. Driving away from the home, he unlocked Valerie's phone using her fingerprint and examined all the information he was interested in, including who she had been interacting with since breaking up with him. But he also required her bank card details. Valerie, depleted of her precious oxygen, could no longer resist. When Javier arrived in Greenwich, Connecticut, he dropped the luggage in an isolated area of the roadway, surrounded by trees and out of sight. He did this without knowing whether Valerie was alive or dead. On the way home, he used the girl's phone to access her financial information before tossing it over a bridge into the river. Then Javier went to many other ATMs to get money. He stole Valerie's phone, her iPad, and one of her pillows from her apartment. Later, the young guy replaced his tablet for a new computer monitor. So, based on Javier's conduct following the incident, he was not tortured by guilt. On February 12, 2019, Javier Enrique de Silva Rojas was accused with abduction and murder. For this crime, he faced execution or life in jail. It took some time to get the case to trial. Javier's defense attempted to depict him as a victim, hoping that the court would drop the death sentence from the agenda. The attorneys maintained that this was the man's first offense motivated by envy, and that prior to this, he had a reputation as a kind person with no criminal past. His refugee status also benefited the defensive team. He had to leave a collapsing nation, forego college, and depart Venezuela. Javier landed in the United States with only $600 in his pocket. He became depressed as a result of his separation from loved ones and began using illicit drugs. He was a damaged guy who really regretted his acts and recognized the horrific nature of his conduct. Fortunately for him, the attorney struck a plea deal, and on February 5, 2020, Javier Enrique de Silva Rojas pled guilty to kidnapping Valerie Reyes and causing her death. In court, he totally apologized and said that he would never forgive himself for what he had done and that he would not dare to request forgiveness from the Reyes family, knowing that he did not deserve it. When Norma, Valerie's mother, entered the stage and voiced her grief at losing her daughter at such a young age, Javier couldn't stop crying. He cried silently in the defendant's dock. On September 23, 2021, 26-year-old Javier Enrique de Silva Rojas was sentenced to 30 years in jail for abduction with death. Because he was in the United States unlawfully, he will be deported back to Venezuela after his term finishes. Valerie Reyes spread love and happiness to everyone around her. The terrible death of this child sparked widespread criticism in the neighborhood where she resided. Her brief existence was marked by envy, brutality, and hunger for money, and all of the criminal's acts seemed to be deliberate and motivated by passion. They were estimated with too much precision. Javier knew he was going to hurt Valerie before he ever entered her apartment. Stealing from someone he had just killed demonstrates his lack of remorse, and his tears in the defendant's dock were nothing more than another kind of deceit. This marks the conclusion of the narrative. Like the video and share your ideas in the comments. See you shortly.